Hey, what's up, all my Padawans, Jedi Knights, and Jedi Masters? Welcome back to another video. Today, I want to talk about showing Star Wars to adults for the first time. Now, very recently, over the past year, I've had the opportunity to introduce Star Wars to two of my work colleagues. These are two adult males in their late 20s, and they had never actually seen Star Wars. Now, at first, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, oh my God, you've never watched Star Wars? But I grew up with these movies. I was born in 1995, so from a very early age, I grew up with the original trilogy on VHS. And then when I was about 4 years old, that was when the Phantom Menace came out. And I remember very quickly, I didn't see this in theaters. Obviously, I was a bit young, but I saw it on video and DVD pretty soon after that. And of course, I grew up with the prequels, of course. So Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are like the main Star Wars movies of my childhood. Those are the ones that I have the most fondest memories of like playing Attack of the Clones in the schoolyard and things like that. They were the ones that are very vivid childhood memories for me as the episodes 2 and 3. So at first I was a bit kind of shocked that they hadn't actually seen Star Wars, but then I kind of realised, everyone's upbringing is very different. Some parents might not be into films, and they might just have not had the opportunity to watch Star Wars. So yeah, I talk about it in work all the time, and I learned that these two guys had never seen it. So the first guy that I started to talk about Star Wars with, he admitted to me that he'd never watched it, and then I said, "Oh no, you want to give it a shot? It's really cool." I was telling him a bit about it, and then one day he come up to me and said, I've begun watching Star Wars," and at first they were all like, "Well, how do I start watching it?" Because to introduce Star Wars to an adult, there's various different ways that you can do that. So the most simple way is basically watching episodes 1 to 6, but most fans will probably tell them to watch the original trilogy first, starting with A New Hope, of course, and then finishing with Return of the Jedi. So you're watching 4, 5, and 6, and then kind of go back in time as like a flashback and watch the prequel trilogy, which is Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. That's, one way to do it. But I just said to them, the simplest way probably, if you want to watch the whole story arc, because basically it is the rise and fall of Darth Vader, you want to watch it from episode 1, The Phantom Menace, right the way through to episode 6, Return of the Jedi. So the first guy, did exactly that. We watched it episode 1 to 6 in time order, chronological time story order, I mean. And he really enjoyed it. And to be honest, he really loved The Phantom Menace. And I'm just so happy that this film is finally getting kind of the praise, and the admiration that it deserves, because this film was like hated on for years. Like, people did not like this film. But everyone that I've spoke to that have watched this film, over the recent years, they've really enjoyed it. They always enjoy the pod race. That's one standout scene for them. And of course, the lightsaber duel with Darth Maul at the end of the film, and the whole Duel of the Fates, which is absolutely epic. They really enjoy that aspect of it. And I actually asked them, I say, what did you think of Jar Jar Binks? Again, because that character was hated so much. But the guy didn't have a problem with Jar Jar Binks. He just, part of the movie and thought he was funny and, just accepted him. So that was really nice to hear that he really enjoyed The Phantom Menace. And then, of course, he carried on with the prequels. And I think actually Revenge of the Sith was this first guy's favourite. He really enjoyed that film. He loved the darkness of it. He really loved the turn of Anakin into Darth Vader. He loved that aspect of it. But what's really interesting now is when he went on to the original trilogy, which of course these were made first, obviously. Newer people watching Star Wars don't really get into these films as much. That's what I've kind of discovered. Like, they enjoy them, but I find that on a whole they enjoy the prequel trilogy a lot more, probably because the special effects and the more complicated storylines and just the more enhanced visuals maybe. But newer audiences tend to enjoy the prequels more, that I find. And these two guys that I introduced Star Wars to really struggle to get into the original trilogy. Now that's hard for me to comprehend, because obviously, again, I grew up with them. But these guys are going into Star Wars for the first time, so it just makes sense that they're going to enjoy like the newer films, because the original trilogy was made in the late 70s to the early 80s, of course. But yeah, the first guy, really enjoyed watching Star Wars. I advised him, not to watch the Disney films. Really, he could if he wanted to, but I just said, if you want to watch the original George Lucas vision of the rise and fall of Darth Vader. Episodes 1 to 6, is perfectly fine. And then the second guy that I was talking to about Star Wars, he had never seen them again, but ironically, his name is actually Luke.
Ironic.
So this video is going to be dedicated to my colleague and friend Luke and his mother Claire. I wish Claire all the best of health. I know you're going through a lot at the moment, so I do really wish you all the best and a quick recovery. And I really hope that you do well soon. And so Luke very recently got into Star Wars. He put on the Phantom Menace. He was a bit overwhelmed at first because he went on Disney Plus and saw all the Star Wars content and he just didn't know where to start. So again, I advised him to start from the beginning, which is, of course, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and just watch them right through to Episode 6. Watch them in that order. And he really enjoyed The Phantom Menace. I suppose he didn't really understand the plot as such, and all the Trade Federation talk and all the politics, which I kind of get. It is kind of convoluted and complicated for newer audiences, and the dialogue as well in these movies can be very hard to understand, like the very opening lines between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I have a bad feeling about this. I don't sense anything. It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere elusive. Don't center on your anxieties, Obi-Wan. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs. But Master Yoda should be mindful of the future, but not at the expense of the moment. Be mindful of the living force, my young Padawan. Now, to me, that's just awesome dialogue, and I absolutely love it, but I can understand that newer audiences be like, what the heck are they talking about, man? It's very much Star Wars technical jargon, and if you're new to the series, it won't make sense until you're a few movies in, of course. But he really enjoyed The Phantom Menace. He's not watched the rest of the saga yet. He has a lot on his plate right now, but I believe Luke is going to watch the rest of the series very, very soon. Again, he really enjoyed the pod race sequence and the duel at the end of the film. And everyone always says to me now, Tom, I really understand why you enjoy the music of these films, because the music really is great. And it's just so epic, Of course, John Williams is the best movie composer, ever, in my opinion. He's the best composer of all time. I absolutely love John Williams. I can listen to his music anytime, any place. And again, I asked them about Jar Jar Binks, and no, they just accepted him, had a good time, had a laugh, and just enjoyed it for what it is, which is great to hear. So I can't wait to find out what he thinks of the rest of the saga. So that was just really interesting for me to introduce Star Wars to two grown adult males, in the late 20s, mid to late 20s that had never seen Star Wars before. And, there's a couple of ways you can do it. As I say, do you show them the original trilogy first and then go back in time to watch the prequels? Or do you just say watch episodes 1 to 6 and that's the entire story? That's what I did personally. And I just think that's the best way and the most coherent way to do it. But everybody's different, people might tell them to do it different ways. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. That was just something really interesting that happened to me, and showing adult males Star Wars for the first time that they had never seen and just getting their reactions. It was just totally fresh and new to me to see what newer audiences think of Star Wars, because I grew up with these films. A lot of my family and friends obviously know all these movies inside out, so it was just fresh to have someone gain a new perspective on them and get fresh and new opinions, a clean slate from an adult perspective, not a child. So that was really interesting. So again, this video is going to be dedicated to my friend and colleague Luke. I wish you all the best. I know you both and your mother are going through a lot right now, and I wish your mother a speedy recovery and, hope things turn out well. You deserve all the good things in the world. And so thanks very much for watching, guys. Take care, and I will see you soon.